back to the BAT podcast. Howard, Randy, and Zach. Gentlemen, the mic is hot. What's happening?
I'm happy to be here. I haven't been on one of these in a while, and I want to be on some more podcasts and talking about things going on BAT. We got a lot happening. We were all in Vegas for SEMA, and there's some stuff cooking on the website right now. So where do you guys want to jump in?
SEMA recap. I mean, it's amazing. We can all sit in the same room and make eye contact after that week, right?
Yeah, the three of us were in Vegas a week ago. It was Zach's first time, so we can hear his opinions on that. I had been just once before in 2019. I really, honestly loved it. I think SEMA is amazing. Randy's been a number of times. And yeah, we can share with you guys sights and sounds, what we saw, what we did. For me, SEMA is just a reminder of just how far the automotive and automotive adjacent world extends, like all the brands that we all know and love and are familiar with. But so much other stuff that you don't even realize what all these companies are doing until you get to a place like that and see all their products and people, on display and demos and all that sort of stuff. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. The scale of it all is really what blew me away. I mean, I had to collect my pass on one end of the building and then hike back all the way to the other. And I was like literally getting lost in the tire section, learning about Honda tires and their tire release of this year, some Taiwanese brand I've never heard of.
First timers are at a significant disadvantage at SEMA, in my opinion. Yeah, I spent the first time, on the wrong end of the wrong building, of the wrong pass, whatever. That can be a little difficult. You kind of figure it out after a couple times through, but I think it's amazing. I was there this year as part of SEMA Education, is sort of one strain of things, and they have discussions and classes and courses and all sorts of resources for people that are there. So got to be on a panel, got to talk to some of the board members of what they're doing, what they're trying to do. They're evolving it a little bit. It's always been a little weird for me that it's allegedly not for general public and spectators, right? You can't just roll up and buy tickets, but if you work at a gas station, you can roll up and buy tickets. So it's this like a weird stratification of their audience. And you're technically supposed to be like in the trade. So you're actually buying equipment there, or you care about distributing Zach's tires he was learning about or whatever. And now we can all get in because we're part of Bring a Trailer, which is in the industry, but that has always seemed a little unusual. And I think they recognize that because their deal for next year is that they want to expand access for the general public of enthusiasts, which I think is smart. But they're still going to keep it a little bit separate and do some things. But yeah, anyway, this year, I thought it was, there was great stuff on the floor, right? Different OEMs were there, different stuff was happening. But I saw some super cool stuff that I took some photos of and we posted on the site. But what kind of stuff was firing you guys up that you saw there?
I definitely understand why they want to open it up to the public. I see it both ways, right? Like my favorite room is like kind of the collision center, right? And you get all walking through and like, so what do you like the demo of this spot weld machine and this paintless dent removal and these amazing pieces of equipment that are big bucks. And, if it's an industry show, it's like, I might pick up a few, place an order for a few of these bad boys, show me how it works. But, if you got the general public, I guess I would understand how, the Snap-on technicians will be like, I want to give this demo for the 800th time to people who are not going to buy anything.
Yeah.
But man, the equipment that automotive shops use, some of the stuff is, $100,000 for a welding machine. And I'm getting really into the weeds here of my favorite takeaway. I mean, we can talk about just some of the cars that are there and what people are doing with restorations and modifications and paint and all sorts of stuff. But I was quite taken with Collision Center. That would be my number one rec for anyone to see this stuff in action. It's pretty amazing.
I think I got lost in paint protection film. I was trying to count how many different paint protection films were there represented at SEMA, because there's really only 2 or 3 big brands when you're shopping that for your car. And I think there was at least over 20 different displays for film. And one of the guys there was just doing a demo, just actively applying it on a car in front of everyone.
Yeah.
So that was all pretty incredible. I'm blown away by how much you can see and do not buying a ticket and just walking around sort of the premises.
Oh yeah, premises. And I mean the SEMA Convention Center is something like 1 million square feet of show space, and it's packed wall to wall with exhibitors. But that doesn't even include the outdoor space, which is drifting demos. I send you guys a funny video, right? For people listening, like it's 50% of it is really awesome. 50% you can't tell if it's cool or terrible, but there was truly something for everyone there. And right, like Pennzoil had like a huge setup outside, like you would see a big rig at a racetrack with like a cool setup with their tent and their awning.
See, that's my whole thing though. That's why I've always been confused with the event overall, because of that. So Pennzoil's there and they're sponsoring like monster trucks or whatever, right? I mean, it's like engineered to make car people stoked, right? But I like, is that going to get the guy with the alignment shop to choose Pennzoil instead of Mobile One or whatever? Like, I've always been like, it's like a festival of car amazingness, right? And everybody's, building cars to get them there and have them seen and post photos of them and stuff. And I'm just like, this is awesome. I wish like you could just invite your friends to come to this sort of thing. And I think that's going to evolve, and I think they're smart to evolve it. But yeah, it's sort of a double-edged sword of the exclusivity part of it. But it's on the automotive calendar in a way that I think everybody ought to go once at least, even if you're, wandering around trying to figure it out the first time like I was. But I think that the cars that are there, it's like on some level, it's sort of a car show. But then did you go through like the Toyota section? I mean, what do they have? 50 cars there? It's like better than you grew up going to car shows like SF Auto Show, whatever. You know what I'm saying?
That's the Thanksgiving, used to be the Thanksgiving tradition.
Totally. And LA Auto Show is cool, but like the Toyota booth at SEMA is better than their display, I would argue, anywhere else during the year, totally. Right? And Ford was last year, and they had who was there? GMC was there this year and did some cool stuff.
And they did like really creative exhibits with the cars, right? Some accessories and paint schemes, and just really like on point, really cool, thoughtful stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all about modifying and aftermarket parts, and so they got them, stacked up with cool stuff. And this is the one that goes camping, and this is the one that drifts, and it's like what you actually wish a car show would have.
GR86 like rally package.
Totally.
Really sweet stuff.
So anyway, I love it. I think it's cooler than car shows, and I think it's like new auto shows, call them, and it's cooler than most enthusiast car shows, honestly. So, and yeah, you can get lost in the like weirdo offerings of people, custom headlight stands and stuff like that you don't want to go anywhere near, but it's all sort of there, and you can kind of choose what you like.
Carpet cutting machines, amazing stuff. I mean, I was walking around thinking like, which of these brands can bring a trailer, do cool partnerships with, or any number of things. And the answer is like almost all of them, and especially ones with a cool display. You walk in, it's like, I'm in the ARB tent, like, oh yes, let's go. B18 ARB or worn, right? Like when you're there, you're filled with all this enthusiasm for doing it. We mentioned Pennzoil. There was a Valvoline had a cool little setup, and I was talking to the Valvoline guys, and I was like, yeah, with Bring a Trailer, have you ever heard of it? And one guy was like, yeah. The other guy was like, no, like never heard of it. And I was like, wow, like,
isn't that crazy?
I love stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. I had that as well. I was there and was talking, like my favorite truck at the whole thing was on the Toyota stand, and these guys out of Arizona put it together. It was a brand new Sequoia TRD Pro, all deck, probably, I don't know, 150 grand. This thing, I don't know what it was, with a cool jet ski mounted on the back, and
stand-up jet ski with the Toyota graphics.
You saw that?
Awesome.
It was incredible. That thing was incredible. I posted it on my social and said it was my pick of the entire show. I loved it. And yeah, I'm talking to the builder dude who's awesome and totally into it. And he's like, what are you here for? Who are you with? And I'm like, I'm with Bring a Trailer. He's like, what's that? Right. And I was like, oh man, like people don't know. We got work to do, but
a lot of work to do.
Yeah. So anyway, but I think it's cool. I think it's a good signal of enthusiasm for what's going on in the space. And some of those cars may belong on BAT someday, and some of them, people joke also about SEMA about like the level of prep of the cars. It's a little for show, and some of it not forgo. And people definitely hustle to get cars there in the final week and stuff. But some of the stuff that's there is really, really incredible.
You posting pink F40s?
Pink F40.
Honda powered 328. Like
No, that's 308. That's Mike Bros from Stance Works that built the white Ferrari, incredible Honda powered K20 or whatever, Honda swap turbo car. That I hope he gets on the racetrack soon. I'm excited for that one. But yeah, there were lots of stuff that I was just walking around snapping, right? And I'm like a tourist there. I'm not going to buy an alignment machine. I don't care. But I'm there to see cool cars, creativity, cool builds. The drift stuff outside and the like burn your tires down. It's not really my jam, but they bring out a bunch of Baja trucks and just stuff you're not going to see anywhere else. And anyway, I would go again and again. To your point, I think that's my third or maybe fourth. And I think the people running it are smart, and I think that it's going to grow and it's going to evolve. And what other car stuff is going on in Vegas other than that? Like a NASCAR weekend, now F1.
Well, F1 will be kind of back to back with SEMA, I think, if I'm getting those dates right.
Yeah, they're trying to maybe put that together to be a festival sort of week. So that should be a circus, and I think it'd be a good one. SEMA
would have to be a 2-weeker if they open the gates to full public, right? I mean, it's amazing that it's close to the public and the place is jam-packed for 4 straight days. So.
Well, they announced on Thursday at their press conference that they're going to tack on basically SEMA Fest for the public, which is not full access to the same insider sort of industry show, but it's like a few days tacked on to the end, across the street, different displays, concerts, full public. It's like a big car festival. What's the night?
Oh, Grid Life.
You know all this stuff. I didn't even have to say it, and you knew what I was talking about.
Be the maiden voyage for the Turbo 308.
I hope so. But anyway, I don't really know anything about that. I'm totally speaking outside my area of expertise, but more that sort of festival atmosphere and a bunch of people hyped on cars. Like I think they could extend that thing through the weekend, right? Because it's also a weird deal because it's like, oh yeah, what day you going to SEMA? Oh, I'm going on Tuesday, right? It's not like a weekend event. It's
no weekend.
It's like a work hours event, and then there's no evening things really. There's kind of a Friday night thing, I think. But anyway, they're going to make it a more social, more accessible thing through the weekend. SEMA Fest, dude. We may be able to be involved, and we'll see what next year's going to look like. But that's next fall, 2023 SEMA. It's going to be a different flavor.
Interesting. Obviously, lots of automotive celebrities on site, but even offsite around the strip. Randy had a Tony Stewart sighting.
Tony Stewart's, yeah, he's at the tables, and you're wandering through these casinos, and there's like, people wearing their lanyards. There's like the standard visitor, but yeah, then there's like some sightings of some people. I snapped a photo. Ken Block was there with his Audi.
Is that his Sport Quattro thing?
Yeah, it's his sort of custom Sport Quattro, and he just did the video release that was in Vegas, right? The new Gymkhana or whatever they call that now, Huna, whatever, was down the strip in Vegas, which was awesome. So. Anyway, some cool cars there on hand, and celebs too.
When I was there in 19, I had a little interaction with Joey Logano. For whatever reason, a lot of NASCAR drivers. Makes sense, right? A lot of those cars wrapped. The presenting sponsor of big SEMA presences, so they'll bring out some of the big guns for SEMA, and there's always someone notable walking around. Usually you can spot that person as there's a line of 300 people wrapped around some wing of the convention center waiting for an autograph, but everyone's super accessible. So I think that's pretty neat.
Did you guys see the F1 cars that were there? There were 2 F1 cars on display.
Then they did the thing on the strip.
Then they did the thing on Red Bull, right? On the strip.
That's amazing.
And drove it through the casino. Did you see that? The footage of it driving like straight through the Cosmo or wherever it was?
I'm so upset I wasn't aware. I would have designed my trip to see that happen in person, but man, I missed it.
Yeah. Anyway, that was pretty cool. But lots of different flavors, lots of interesting stuff. I heard from the organizers that like Chinese travel bans like changed the flavor of the show a little, right? They used to have a whole hall of the crazy stuff that kind of freaks me out because it's a bunch of sort of tire brands you've never heard of and whatever. But that whole crowd, because of COVID restrictions, wasn't there. So it changed change the flavor of the show a little bit.
You guys have gone in years past. Was there as many rooftop manufacturers the last time you were there than this time?
Rooftop. What are you talking about?
Like pop tent.
Oh,
rooftop.
yeah. There's a whole wing or hall or,
Well, I was
hangar,
blown
whatever
away
they
because I
call
feel
it.
like
It's
that
just that
Instagram
stuff.
fad has popped up just like the tents over the last 2 years, and it's just littered.
No, but
off
that's
my feed.
Overland. I went to Overland Expo, remember, in Colorado. I mean, that's a thing. I mean, those things are here. That wasn't like a COVID, I want a rooftop tent and now I'm out. Like all the Overland crowd,
But
like
they had
wants one of those on all their vehicles.
The 996 C4S, he's got a cool Instagram feed. But
Yep.
that car was there with the tent.
Was
on
it there at
display.
SEMA?
Yeah.
So that car was on the Overcrest rally.
Oh, really?
Yes,
I
because
didn't
he's
realize
in with
that.
those dudes. This is
Awesome.
996 Road Trip is
I
what
think
he's
so,
called,
yeah.
right?
It's
Green
a black
car. Green car?
Maybe it was a black one. Maybe
Gray, black, maybe it's a
but-
different one. Anyway, there's a Porsche dude driving around with rooftop
Yeah.
tent, but the that industry, there's a bunch of those going, and this is like they all show up there. But again, are you going there? It's like a consumer they're looking for to buy it at SEMA. They're not looking for REI to distribute it or
Right.
like I don't know. It just seems it seems like it's almost intended for the consumer and for the social media visibility more than it's for the insiders. So I've always thought that they ought to figure out how to get some sort of consumer flavor. So anyway, as you can tell, I'm a little I go back and forth on like how that show functions, but the overall takeaway is that it's killer and you should go if you can figure out how to get in. That's what I'd say.
Yeah. Well, from SEMA, the cool stuff we've had on BAT, we've had, a car that blew my mind that ended this weekend. We're recording this on November 14th. Zach, was the Flying Miata 2016
Hey,
build
what'd that go for?
with an LS3, $100,000.
No.
Which it had a conservative reserve and people love that stuff. And the guys at Flying Miata do really amazing craftsmanship and fitting engines and drivetrain in those things. But man, $100,000 for a LS3 Miata is, if you want one, that's the builder you want. But
most expensive Miata we've ever sold on BAT.
Yeah, that definitely took off the page.
I'm looking at the Miata results page on BAT. 649 Miatas. One crested 80 grand in 2019, which was another Flying Miata LS3.
There you go.
Interesting, 84 grand. And this one sold for 100,000.
Shout out to Keith at Flying Miata. You know what's up.
He's got the top two. He's top two spots on the podium. Next one down is also LS3 powered, and it's 46 grand.
Yeah.
So that's quite a spread. But 100K. I didn't see that car on the site, but I saw it on our social, and there was pictures of it like ripping through tires, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, that car's gonna go. But cool that they did that.
Huge respect to the guy that says, no, I don't want the C8 Corvette. I'm going to spend $100,000 on a Miata with an LS, and that's what's going to make me happy.
Right. It's more than a lot of C8 vets, which is crazy to think about.
Well done.
Yeah, Stoddard collection caught my eye. Obviously, Doug from Switch Cars bringing that through was cool to see. The most interesting thing about it was there's not a single Porsche in the collection, right?
Yeah. Do you guys know Stoddard? Have you guys? I'm kind of a million years old, and I used to have like a paper Stoddard catalog when I had my 356.
Old Chuck Stoddard, tell us. He was a racer, obviously a big Porsche parts guy.
Yeah, just a dealer with a killer parts department, and the dude built out the parts department like crazy to go full on mail order and like making their own parts and doing their own things. And then they got joined up with NLA, which was this other parts house, and they were. And still are like a killer resource for people with 356s, 912s, maybe 914s, even early 911 stuff. And that was like the catalog you have to have, right? If you had one of those cars. This is not fully pre-internet. Certainly they ran pre-internet. I didn't get involved with them until maybe 03, 04. And it was still like call them at the number sort of deal, and the paper catalog, and they obviously were buying and doing some interesting things with cars. They were always a fender sponsor on Skirmint's race cars, Vic's race cars, right? All those Midwest Porsche racers running SCCA stuff. Vic's red and white car that we sold whenever that was. said Stoddard Porsche parts on the
Skirmish and Stoddard, those two dudes have chopped it up a few times.
right. That's deep in the 356 world. And yeah, anyway, I was very intrigued to see that come through and to see the kind of stuff that they obviously liked. What was some of the stuff in there? And Zeta in there. They had a BMW 700 coupe, which is a cool car.
Oh, dude, yeah. Zach mentioned 0 Porsches, which makes it even more interesting. They had a Studebaker, Citroens. They had a really cool Fiat Abarth, the Zagato. That was the highest dollar car they sold. The biggest headline result for me, they had a 79 Super Beetle cab with 200 miles that sold for $90,000. Which,
Did it really?
and
I think the buyer would be insulted if he heard you say 200. It was 190.
No, well,
Sub 200 miles.
Will that car ever crest 200 miles? Ever?
Hopefully not.
well, no.
I hope the guy drives.
I'm giving you a hard time.
I hope the guy drives.
Fiat Abarth Zagato was just shy of 200, but the Super Beetle was 90, and we've sold a few of them. There was a following for that stuff, super low mile,
Sure.
Beetle cabs, but always amazing me to see an absolute pickled one in the wrapper come through and what it's able to do. But
What was your guy's favorite out of the list? Mine was the 700 coupe. I thought that thing was super cool. Went for like 48 grand or 45
that was
grand.
cool. Yeah,
That was on my watch list for sure.
I mean, the Fiat Abarth is, I think, objectively the best. I just think they look phenomenal. But personally, for me, the 600 Multipla, I'm just really partial to those cars. Would love to have one if I have that 10th parking space one day. So cool to see that kind of eclectic taste against someone that's such a big name in the Porsche world.
Little Chris Aubert nod there with the first ever California I almost said melee I went on, which is like the low dollar version of that event. He ran it in a Multipla, and I was like, who is this person? What is going on?
wow.
Dirt roads, like all the way up to Fort Bragg and way northern California. And it made it. I think it made it all the way through to the end. That was in 2006. And he was cruising in that thing. Unbelievable. And then we've sold a few good ones of those, obviously. And this one went through. What did that thing get? I don't know what that thing got.
Went to 55, which that's at the upper end of where we're seeing these sales.
That's a nice one. Yeah. Anyway, kind of a cool machine. I love that you picked that out.
Randy, you did a really cool podcast with Matt Farah on the smoking tire, which came out a week or so ago. You guys had some interesting convos about what we're selling on BAT, the broader car market. So I would encourage people to give that a listen if they haven't already. But Zach, I mean, you and I see it every day. You know, people always want to talk about the market, right? Is it up? Is it down? Is it strong? Is it weak? Where is it going? What macro factors are positive or negative? I think a lot of people want to say the market kind of peaked earlier this year. I think that maybe is true in kind of the broadest sense of the word, but if you dive even a little bit deeper, right, like any market, right, there's, even if the broader trend is down, I don't think it is right now for cars in a blanket sense, but there's always winners, right? There's like Jim Cramer, there's always a bull market somewhere, right? Like Z8s might be down, but man, like a Spree V8 final edition, those are going through the roof, right? Zach, 18 GT2 RSs, like they've come down, now they're back up. Right, new GT3.
Still never dip below sticker.
Man,
it's hard to say something's down when it hasn't depreciated below the original SRP, right?
Yeah, that's true.
It's almost like an oxymoron.
But yeah, I mean, this 69 Ford crew cab that we have, I've been watching social media and people talking about those. I'm into old trucks. That thing's at 53 grand with a day to go tomorrow. It's going to go absolutely bananas tomorrow. You just watch the bidding. Based on the people that are watching it, and that we don't do that many of those. And when they're on BAT, they're getting the eyeballs. I think overall the market was pretty hot late last year and into early this year, just broadly. But now there are these stars that still are crazy results. People talk about crazy results on BAT. I think that's still around. But yeah, I think overall, I mean, we've seen sort of just average type car market type cars going through BAT, a little softer than they were 6 months ago. But I think it's sort of to be expected a little bit. And some people are like, oh, it must follow the stock market that's down many percent or whatever. And BAT's results are not like that, but they're leveled off or a little more sane. I thought some prices were a little insane in March and April. And I don't see too many insane averages, but we do see crazy results. And the one-off stuff, like you're never going to create a market with a Alfa Romeo car hauler from Greece that's being sold with no reserve with shipping included. Like, I don't know, how do you gauge the market on that? There's not going to be another one for 7 years, right? So it doesn't really dictate a market as much as we can rally around and see a lot of enthusiasm for the one-off and interesting stuff that is floating through BAT. And I think that's the stuff that's interesting to watch. But yeah, I don't know, Zach, 126 mile 2019 Porsche 911 Speedster with numbers on the doors and hood that's on the site right now. I don't know. Could you say that market's up or market's down? I think people are paying crazy money for Porsches all the time.
The crazy thing too is just up and down is so relative, not only to the original purchase price, but also look at where a lot of these cars were selling in 19. I mean, there's a lot of stuff where in hindsight, you're like, oh man, I wish I had bought 20 cars in 2019.
All of them.
Actually would have been the best investment I could have made over the S&P or real estate or what have you. So one of the things I really enjoyed in your podcast with Matt Farah was your point, Randy, of man, there's over 100 new data points every single day going through BAT for people that want to talk about and try and digest the market. What are we seeing? Well, honestly, we're seeing a lot of the same stuff everyone else that's looking at the site is. It's 100 different cars closing every single day, and the bid amounts, which is just incredible to see at this point.
I think the most sobriety has hit in kind of the mass production stuff, like E46 M3 convertible SMG. Like they made a lot of them. It's a cool used car, but 95 Broncos, like just because that stuff has cooled down in a major way, and cars that aren't distinguished by good color, miles, service history, or some combination of those things, like are coming back down, definitely probably where they should be.
Yeah.
So if you have something like that, it can still sell for a very fair price, but don't expect that to be some blue sky opportunity to go nuts, because that's just not realistic. And not to say that stuff was all selling super crazy, but prices on stuff that isn't that hard to find were definitely elevated. And I think people's sentiments about a cooling market is in large part tied to kind of that meat and potato stuff that you see everywhere all week, every week. And the trend for those is certainly not no longer up and to the right, but I think that's okay.
Yeah, well said. People's third and fourth preference of spec, it's pretty hard to see that stuff continue to go up and to the right with everything else going on.
But Ford GTs, Zach, are still holding very steady, right? Like you can name a bunch of cars that are down, but Dodge Demons, guys, those. I mean, I looked at the Dodge Demon today. Guy wanted a reserve of like $240K. It was white. It had the rear seat delete, had the sunroof. They don't have sunroof. That's a rear option, right? Like that stuff is hotter than ever.
This is the modern
correct,
Hemi car. Yeah.
18 Demon.
But hey, MGTDs are like the most inflation-proof asset you could own. They were 13 grand forever, 5 or 6 years ago. Every single one was 13, and now they're all 18 to 22.
Yeah. Well, that was a topic that came up in Randy's panel at SEMA. I forget what the exact example was, but are people still going to care about 30s and 40s American passenger cars? And I thought that was super interesting, because the answer is it depends. But 30 years ago, everyone said, "Oh, Model Ts and Model As, they're going to zero," and they were worth 25 grand then, and they're still worth 25 grand.
Yeah.
I think big, the 42 Plymouth sedan is maybe a little less interesting than a Model A, but the same concept applies.
It's not a totally broad brush for the era, right? You can't make those sort of generalizations. That's where we landed after that panel, which I thought was a good discussion. It was interesting to hear people ask about that stuff. But then the young guy that rolls in and has the E38 7 Series, he's like, has the same, it's interesting, sort of anxiety. The guy's like, should I hang on to this? Is this a good idea? Or is nobody going to collect these in 5 years? And I was like, that car's awesome. Keep that car forever and drive it forever. And I think a lot of the narratives have changed on that. And electrification concerns, which that was something we didn't talk about at SEMA. There's a ton of electric talk, right? A ton of aftermarket stuff for how many modded out Teslas did you see? There was like a ton of them. And they had a whole wing that was like dedicated to that. And I think that's good, but I also think the narrative a couple of years ago was overly optimistic about, like robo cars that are electric that are going to, take your cool car out of your hands. I think that has subsided a bit as people have run into some headwinds on that. So anyway, I'm very optimistic about the kind of stuff that we're driving and experimenting with crazy electric stuff too. So anyway, we'd be remiss not to mention that from SEMA, because that was a whole sort of wing of the place was talking about that stuff.
I look forward to the day at SEMA when the truck with 33-inch chrome wheels that's lifted above my head just sails away in silence from the show and just dumping a cloud of diesel smoke behind it.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that change. I would be all right with that if those were all Ford Lightnings with 44-inch tires on them. I'd actually be pretty stoked on that.
Yeah, the EV conversation goes a lot of directions, and sometimes it can be, like at that panel, someone asked, and people will ask about electrifying vintage cars. Would you electrify your 70 CUDA convertible or electrify something that's really special? And the answer is like, no, that's idiotic. You wouldn't do that. But the broader question of, we've listed recently had a 2002 electric conversion. We've had some Carmen Gias, and there's a ton of interest, or those cars sold really well and a ton of bids. So I'm supportive of it. I think people who want to have the discussion of electrify your super special limited production sports car.
People are doing it though, man. Yeah, they are, or at least making it available. People now in the UK are doing Jags. The Aston workshop will sell you a turnkey swap for your DB456.
Interesting. Okay, so I need to educate myself. I didn't realize it was going that in that direction.
No, I mean they're trying. I mean, how many people are doing it? I don't know, but now these guys are selling the Broncos and trying to get. People are spending huge money on Broncos, and so now what are these guys in Marin called? Anyway, there's this outfit in Marin that's doing Bronco and Camaro swaps. Kindred Motorworks. Those guys are all at SEMA and doing stuff. So anyway, I didn't mean to derail this with like an EV conversation, because we don't need to give it too much airtime, but it is interesting, and I think having a perspective on it is smart. And I think I was interviewed for what was it, New York Times or something, some pretty mainstream outlet recently about Tesla Roadster collectability and that sort of stuff. I mean, it's a real topic, and there's some interesting things to say on it. But I think that I have never felt more secure in the fact that we're going to be able to have these cars and play with these cars for a while, because I mentioned, I don't know if you heard it, you guys were at the panel at SEMA, and I mentioned that Argo AI, went out of business. They shuttered it in 3 seconds after Ford and Volkswagen pulled their money. And I think that kind of fell on deaf ears. I don't think the SEMA crowd is following that or knew Argo.
I was one of those deaf ears.
That's where Alex Roy worked, and a bunch of super smart folks that were working on the future of autonomous. And it's just like, poof, gone. This isn't going to work. We're out. Let's come up with a different idea. So that's sort of, there have been some changes in that industry in the last even just call it 6 months that I think are pretty good. Let's just call it good for folks that want to have their hands on the steering wheel, driving the kind of cars we like. So yeah. We'll see where it goes.
What is interesting to me is that a lot of people doing that EV stuff, their primary motivation is not the environment or gas mileage. It's truly because they're passionate about the technology that it brings and all the stuff that extends from that. So I think that's a positive dynamic.
There's a lot of innovation, and should be. So people have the capacity for that. They can do it in a bunch of different ways. So anyhow, how'd we get on that? That was a curveball.
Oh, but Zach, how did we get on that? But no, I mean, what else? The market, Zach. Heelys and alphas are kind of dead. I'm sorry to say it. I'm a huge alpha guy.
I'm not going to make a bunch of money on my TI,
Yeah.
scrappy TI.
Hold your tongue until the Alphaholics GTAR that we have sitting in the queue right now.
Oh, we'll keep it for that.
Teaser.
By the time this this podcast drops, the listening.
Randy will have bought it already.
You should, man. It's pretty sweet.
Oh,
We're listing
that's gonna hurt
the 105 series Alpha, a GTAR Alphaholics build. Guy actually bought this stock car off the site a few years ago, sent it to the UK. Alphaholics did their whole treatment on it, and look out for that in the next week or two.
Oof, I want to see that really badly.
It's good. Yeah. I don't think alphas are totally dead. I wouldn't say that about Heelys either, but yeah, a few of those.
That was hard. I mean, dead, of course, but I mean the price trend that you can track on BAT is pretty flat.
They're stable.
Yeah.
They're stable, right? I mean, some people buy cars trying to make a bunch of dough on them, and the people that are having fun with them and buying because they enjoy them, I think are having their time right now, right?
And back to your original comments, I mean, when BJ8s best of the best are down a little bit, you go, oh man, do I really want a BT7 chassis when I can spend a little bit more for that? So
who wants that anyway, though, right? I mean, 104
is very pretty.
What's the nomenclature there? The second one, BN2.
Yeah,
there we go.
I
almost forgot, man. I haven't talked the talk on Heelys in a long time, but 104 BN2 is the car, right?
Yeah.
Are you guys doing this late 8 whatever 6-cylinder cars? You don't want those. You want the
6-cylinder sounds good, but the 100 series looks much prettier.
Big Heelys are dead. But Zach, I mean, your GT 500 carbon fiber track pack might be sticker today. Is that okay? I think it is. Right,
Yeah.
Your Heritage Edition GT 350R might be 20K over instead of 60K over. I mean, this isn't Armageddon, guys.
But Bronco Raptor, how much are those over?
Oh, dude, Bronco, count me as someone
120 to
who
130.
underestimated the kind of immediate secondhand market price of Bronco Raptors, and I have to say they look pretty sweet.
There were a few of those obviously modded at SEMA that we saw. That's the most I've seen in one place. I saw one marked sold at the Sunnyvale Ford, like in the showroom, black on black sold. They wouldn't tell me how much it sold for, but those have a healthy markup at the dealer, and they some of those buyers want to unload them. This whole cottage industry of get on the list for the right car and go make your 25 grand. It's a weird dynamic. I think the manufacturers ought to auction cars straight out instead of this whole hand waving. There's MSRP, but nobody pays that. There was a Lightning in that same showroom that was available, and it had what did it have? 35K markup on it, like market adjustment or whatever. Somebody posted recently on social, maybe Alex Roy again, I'll mention him twice on this podcast, like a 200K market adjustment on a 400K MSRP AMG car or whatever, just because you can. Like, I mean, that whole model is sort of broken in my mind, and I just wish that manufacturers would go straight to consumer with auction, preferably on BAT, and just sell it, like it goes for what it goes for. But there's all this sort of backroom dealing and incentives for dealers and all sorts of weird stuff that the general public doesn't have visibility into. And I just wish it was sort of a cleaner way, but who knows if we'll ever get there.
It's very interesting to watch the market dynamics for these highly sought after cars that are hard to get. Broncos, Bronco Raptors, Rivians are super popular on BAT. We list a ton of those. Those, interestingly, have been holding very steady, right? You haven't seen a deceleration in interest, at least as it relates to the price. Stuff like F-150 Lightnings, right? Zach, we haven't seen many Platinums, but we sold a Lariat today for $80,000. I think which is kind of right near your sticker for one of those.
Yeah, 74,
those
73.
They're starting to come off the assembly line, and so there's a couple of those close.
Marching very orderly down from 20K over to 15 to 10 to 5.
Yeah, same with the normal Broncos, right? Raptors are still getting this big money because that's the new shiny penny for everybody. But the sort of standard ones that we're charging way over are marching back towards sticker, which I think is great. We'll still sell them on BAT all day long because you get better presentation, you get better follow through, and you get just sort of more visibility into the car than you do trying to buy one from a Ford dealer in Topeka from California or whatever. I think BAT is the preferred way to do that, in my opinion. But I'm fine if they're not going for 40 over. I've always thought that like power dynamic on these huge markups, and we saw that, talk about the overheated market. Like we were seeing people buy one in November and drive it some and then sell it for a 30 grand profit 4 months later or whatever. Like that whole thing is just sort of broken in my mind. So anyway, I'm fine if that stuff. I wish I could get a Raptor at MSRP right now. You just can't get them.
Are you in the market for one?
I think they're cool. I can't deal with the flares. My favorite setup is actually Sasquatch hard top with the normal flares with the 37s.
Sasquatch is a lower spec. Because what's the high one? Wild Track and First Edition.
Well, there's all the Sasquatch is like a package that you add onto it, but any of those sort of mid-range packages, non-Raptor, like I'm like into it all the way up to the Raptor. I can't handle the Raptor flares and even the hood and stuff. I don't really need any of that. The engine and some other things are pretty cool, but yeah, I know everybody's jumping on the Raptor whatever bandwagon.
How long you give that?
I am not.
When's that insanity going to die down?
Well, only when they can produce enough for them, and some of it's just because it's brand new, right? What does that last? 9 months of that? I mean, it won't last years and years of people going crazy for those unless they really throttle production. But there's not a cooler one coming out, right? The super F-150 Raptor's coming out with the V8 in it, but there's not going to be a better Bronco that comes out better than the Bronco Raptor until they redo the Bronco. But they're not going to redo the Bronco forever, right? I mean, you facelift that truck and you ruin it.
6 or 7 years.
I think it stays. I think the thing just stays what it is, maybe forever. So that's the top of the top. So it's not going to wear off like that.
7-speed manual swap on a Raptor. Is that the next thing that's coming? I wonder if people are buying the free
I
pedal.
think John Hennessy's putting a V8 in one of those. That's what we're going to see.
There'll be V8.
Yeah.
Oh, well, electric. Then there will be like electric options in Bronco. I bet maybe that'll be the next shiny thing that people like. There's the Scout that's being developed by Volkswagen. I don't know if you guys know about that.
I thought the whole thing with the Raptor, though, is you can jump it with all the weight of the batteries. How are you going to get air in that thing?
I think it's pretty theoretical on the jumping.
Hey,
right?
I'm happy to test it.
Right.
Yeah, you're.
Take it to the dunes, right? Take the Glamis or whatever. How many people are actually doing
You
that?
need to take it to Pack Heights, right here.
Or where was that video in your East Bay? Where did? Oh no, was that in SF? I forget where that was. Or was that in SoCal? The Tesla jump.
Tesla jump was in LA.
LA, yeah. That's more of an LA thing. But anyway, I think that yeah, who knows what that thing will be like electric, but that'll come. But yeah, anyway, there's a lot of vehicles on this list of new stuff that has been being flipped on BAT, and I just think it's going to market price is found on BAT because there's a ton of demand, and every Bronco Raptor I've seen in public, there's been like people around it looking at it, stoked on it, and that's great. We had a couple cool Broncos at the alumni gathering at Laguna Seca. That's a legit BAT alumni vehicle as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. But now that almost every major manufacturer is out with some obviously electric offering or some limited production high performance car, and right, like Lucids are tough to sell, right? There's for whatever reason they're not all, the following isn't evenly spread around. Man, what's the other we've been listing a few of that are tough.
The new Fiskars,
or like a Polestar 1, right? Can't sell those.
Yeah, those are hard. Well, and the people that have them want them to be everything, right? Or dealers have them and want to make a bunch of money off them, and it just doesn't seem.
But like a Lucid Polestar 1, like those sticker at like 150-ish, like
big money.
They're so expensive for what amounts to a daily driver. So it's interesting to see those dynamics play out with all this different stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think segueing from that, Randy, you're talking about stuff you're liking on the site. I'm most intrigued on what's on your watch list right now.
You ask me this every time. You seem to be into like the weird stuff. I'm a power user of watch list. You know that?
I do know that.
And I also know that you have
why our watch list is
so
defined on BAT.
You have the keys to probably go in and see what's on my watch list if you wanted to, but
too overlordy.
Thankfully, the broader public doesn't have that kind of access.
What is it? It's 60s American trucks, 80s BMWs? What are the broader strokes here?
Oh, it's all of it. There's the ones, Zach and I were laughing about this. There's the ones that are like close to what I have because I'm like monitoring what's happening. There's a white E28 Euro bumper swap,
I'll
like
also say
exact car.
50% of my watch list is cars I also own.
Yeah, right? Because you just want to know
So-
what's going on. And so I'm watching that
Because I'm
guy,
insecure.
kind of cheering for it, hoping that car gets some money in it. Who knows? I'm way upside down on that E28, but it's an awesome car. But anyway, yeah. So I watch stuff that I have. I watch stuff that I would love to have. Hertz Shelby, no reserve Hertz
Yeah.
66 Shelby GT350.
When does that end?
We have
Soon?
on the site. That ends tomorrow. It's at 190 grand. That
Woo!
I love those.
190. That's an automatic, that car, I think.
I mean, factory, they were almost all automatics for the Hertz cars.
That's a 190. Interesting.
But
Man, I almost like the Hearst livery the best, right? Those are made so well. Not that,
oh man, many don't know. I always pull out that the one in the Guns N' Roses video was white with gold stripes that Slash was driving and drove it off a cliff, which is so killer. Most people think I'm just old and weird because I remember that, but that was a big deal, formative for me. But yeah, this one's automatic, as most of the rental Shelbys were. But anyway, that's a cool car. Yeah, let me just rattle them off. I mean, 964 Carrera Cup USA is on that list.
I knew that would be on there.
Modified F350 crew cab that I talked about earlier. That's on that list. A lot of no reserve cars actually are on here.
good.
FJ40s I'm always watching. Rivians I'm watching. Blazers and Jimmys I'm watching. We have a 92 16 valve GTI on the site right now. I have a white one. This is the black one. We've only had 3 or 4 of those ever on BAT auctions, and I watch that market.
Are you looking at 80s Blazers? You're looking at early
70,
K5.
72,
Yeah.
preferably 71, 72. Love them. I've got the pickup GMC version, which I bought because I maybe didn't find a Blazer as good in time. I'd like to have one of those. We've gone 4 across on the bench seat in the Sierra Grande.
Nice.
But
little ice cream run for
total ice cream run, but there's 5 people in my family, and I'm not going 5 across on that bench. I think that would be, it's already a little dubious. So 4 across is the max. But in a Blazer, I would not have a problem piling 5 of us across, and the new dog in the Blazer, which I think would be amazing. What else is on here? Land Cruisers, always Porsche 356As. I will watch every one of those that is ever on the website. Go-karts and ATCs. I'm a weirdo. I watch the entire go-kart category. I don't know if anybody else actually does that in the world. I get an alert every time any go-kart.
I didn't know we had a go-kart category.
Oh, we very much do. Right now, there's a Shelby Cobra style kart. We've had like
a lot of rups,
dual engine, like, oh man, all that sort of stuff. And then, yeah, I mean, I'm just a conundrum, right? I mean, look at this. I got a 96 Renault Twingo and a 72 GMC K1500, right? I mean, I'm just into all the weirdness.
I could see you one day stepping up to something like a GMC Cyclone or a Typhoon, right? Those those are aging well.
Yeah,
we actually sold one of each of those in the last few weeks that were super popular, and right.
The interiors are not aging well, but the car and its look and just the ridiculousness of it, like, I think they're awesome. I love those. I'd go pickup truck. I don't think I'd go Jimmy Blazer style.
The Cyclone's the one to have, and someone in the office is obligated to get a Ferrari 348 if you show up at one of those.
Because there's a movie drag race, or what's
that's like the iconic Car and Driver or magazine
Car Driver
of that lined up with the 0 to 60 times and posed on the top.
I should have known that. He's the Car and Driver veteran among us.
No, that's news to me.
I'm the road and track dude. I never saw that issue. That issue never came to my parents' address. Anyhow, that's that. So I got 18 cars on the list. I average 16 to 22 cars at any given time on the old watch list, and I get all these texts and alerts throughout my day just because I'm kind of obsessed with it. But I think it's fun. We have a lot of people using these tools now and giving us feedback on them. And if you people out there in the audience have ideas for us about how to make that work or how to make that better, I love SMS alerts, like text alerts hitting me like, you have 30 minutes to bid on this. The whole problem is my hands are tied. I'm like just like into pain for whatever reason, because I don't bid on any of these on BAT, but I've been being nudged lately to start bidding on some no reserve cars, but I don't bid on these, but I watch them all incessantly. So anyway, it's fun to watch.
We got some interesting former celeb cars. Notably, we have LBJ's 64 Lincoln Continental and JK's Mercedes Benz 600. Shout out to Jamiroquai for people who
I don't know whose celebrity status you're minimizing and saying both of those names.
I thought you were going to say, I don't know who JK is. That's where I thought you were going with that.
No, I thought you were going to say, I don't know who LBJ is. Well, I was just going to have to leave.
LBJ, Dallas, Texas.
Jamiroquai, you heard that?
Oh, well, dude, that was big when I was late high school or
acid jazz for the win. Let's go.
Yeah, what was that video? Do people still watch music videos? Anyway, that video where he was like on a treadmill dancing around doing stuff. He's always been into cars. He's known in the UK for being pretty legit with car collecting, but it's ex JK, right? It's not him selling it, because if it was Mm-hmm. He had some interesting stuff. But yeah, 600 Pullman Benz, right? He has some good,
I love
interesting
that color.
taste.
Black is the best color to have.
I saw one of those driving through San Francisco, just blasting through Pacific Heights in, call it 2005.
Out in the wild.
Totally in the wild, like non-chauffeur. It was the short wheelbase one.
Yeah.
And they were just ripping through it. It's like, that was an unusual moment. That was one of my most unusual car sighting moments in San Francisco when I used to live here.
Interesting. Well, as we wrap up here, what other things we got to tease on the site? We're out with some 2023 calendars, people. Are people still using calendars on their fridge?
Paper calendars. Speaking of dating ourselves a little bit, we sell out of those pretty much every year, and they're pretty cool. We put them together. We give all the money that's collected for those goes to charity, which is pretty cool. That we can support some national level charities. This year's charity is around mental health and support of people's mental health, which I think is important on the heels of COVID lockdowns and everything else that makes life crazy. So that's positive. And we use all BAT listings and photography, and there's quotes of commenters in there. I don't know if you've seen those or gotten those, but good holiday item, fun thing. I hang them in the wall in my home office, and it kind of harkens back. You guys talk about Car and Driver and Road and Track. I bought the Road and Track calendar, or I didn't buy it. I got the Road and Track calendar from my parents for my birthday. For Christmas, right at the end of the year, every year when I was a kid. And I still have I brought those into the BAT office once. They're like 89, 90, 91. They got F40s when they're new, like was on the cover of the calendar, that sort of stuff. So it harkens back to that. It's kind of crazy. I don't know. Does anybody other than us sell a paper calendar anymore? Probably not.
If they do, I don't think we want to know the brands that we're competing with. But
so anyway, but ours is cool, and we custom make it and design it. The last is the fourth or fifth of those that we've done, and I just think it's a cool thing to have in your garage or your office to kind of harken back to that with some cool BAT imagery.
So check that out. We're also having meetings now to get our 2023 event calendar going for Bring a Trailer, both alumni gatherings and a number of other things. So if you have ideas of where we should be going, where places we're not even thinking about, events that you or your community host that we would be welcome and a good fit for, let us know, because we're preparations are well underway for everything we're doing for next year. Heading into the winter, I'm just looking at the BAT event calendar. It's a little light, right? We got a few months ahead of us with kind of the car off season, if you will, but that'll be over soon enough, and we'll be off and running for next year in due time.
It'll be fun next year. We had a lot of success, a lot of interesting attendees at our events in 2022, and I think 2023's brainstorming on how to do that differently, what to keep and what to do differently is actually really exciting and invigorating for the community. So we'll do some more of that, but also out at just sort of events that we can attend. If you guys have ideas, did you guys, Zach, this was a first time SEMA year for you. This was a first time Overcrest Rally year for me. I was stoked. I always think it's cool to mix in like your favorite. We go to Monterey every single year, right? But what can you be doing that's new or different? Howard, did you do any first timer this year? You're back at the Melee, but you've done what, 20 of those in your life? Any other stuff that you attended or did this year that was kind of new and you thought you maybe want to do again, or something coming up you'd like to do?
Man, we talked last pod. I drove that GT3 Cup car Velocity.
That
So
was
that
new.
was
New.
that was new for me. Man, I've done fewer car events this year, I'm sad to say. So I need to reverse that trend for next year. But you know, it seems to be more and more cool new events every year, every weekend. So that's why we can't do it ourselves, right? We need input from all the community to let us know what's cool out there, because the volume of stuff these days are. I just received a text. Here's the text: Howard, 1996 Alpha GTV V6 2.0 turbo, high spec, low miles, black tan, Lusso interior. What's it worth?
Turbo though. This is a Callaway.
96 turbo. Callaway is not included on this text, but it could be.
It's got to be, right? I mean, Alfa Romeo turbo is what you said. That's the only turbo kit I know for that thing. Man, I don't know. What are you going to tell them?
We need to do this live. We need people to be writing in to give me their best guesses.
A funny show would be you guys answering your emails aloud.
Totally.
Aloud.
Just doing our daily job with all your info. We'd actually love that.
Oh man, I don't know. That may be PG-13 week with depending on some of the emails you guys get inbound, but like that Alpha text is. How many of those do you guys get every single day? Like in the tens and hundreds of people.
Yeah,
what's this car worth?
Digits.
Yeah. Well, the only problem is that guy's coming in thinking that Alpha is worth 75 grand, which you're going to have a little discussion about how the world might actually work. But I love that you're getting those real time as we're sitting here on the podcast.
All right, guys. Good stuff. We'll see you next week. We hope with another installment. Take care.